Welcome back to another New World video. This time, I've got the ultimate guide for the 10-man hatchery raid, if you want to call it that. I guess it's 10 man, so it counts as a raid. There's some waves of mobs in this sort of fight. There's 2 bosses. There's bind on a crit rewards. Yeah, we're going to go through it. It's been added to the Season 2 release of New World, alongside this 20-man raid as well. This is definitely content that you can just basically join with complete randomers, like recruitment chat and stuff like that. A couple of members from your company and then a bunch of randoms. It's absolutely fine, unlike the obviously 20-man raid worm boss, which definitely takes some coordination. But basically, I'm going to give you all of the guide that you need, all the mechanics, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and just explain it, so then in case you've never done it before, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do. You'll stop wiping, you'll stop getting chucked over the edge when the final boss does that. And yeah, we'll show you what to do. But basically, guys, I record all of this this content over on Twitch. If you want to come and check my channel out, feel free. I'll put a link here on the screen. I'll put a link in the description box down below as well. You can just click it, press follow, and come and watch me live, and you can get all this sort of guide content and anything else you want to talk about New World wise whilst I'm live. But yeah, let's get into the guide. Right, let's show you where the hatchery man raid is. So Brimstone Sands, Cavalier Shrine, I can never say it, Corsica City. It's in between those two. And if you zoom in here, I'll show you, and we'll just show you the front door as well. Okay, once you get inside, like we said, this is a 10-man team. My personal opinion, unless you were taking in a load of players who have no human ward and no fire protection, whether that's rubies in the armor, fire pots, or even some flame conditioning, for example. If you don't have any of that, I would possibly take 2 healers, 1 tank, and 7 DPS. However, for a normal group, you've all got a bit of human ward. So for your protection, a couple of ruby gems in there, nothing crazy. I mean, I would go over 600 gear score for this, so try and get to 625 if you can. It's just going to make it a lot easier for you. There's no specific requirements other than being over 600, or else you will start to take quite a bit of damage. Yeah, the overall team you should go for is 1 healer, 1 tank, and then 8 DPS. Try and mix up those DPS weapons, like with your spears, maybe even sword and shield on leadership if it's not your tank already, your great swords. You can have a hatchet user in there, you can have warhammer user in there, not main, but like secondaries, because basically you don't want to stack up all the exact same weapons, because once you all start applying rends, if it's all the same skills that you're using, everyone's using spear rend, for example, or it basically won't stack. So try and mix up your weapons a little bit when you go in there. Ranged, probably not go too much. Right, so we're going to start with the first waves of mobs. As you can see here, there's some melee and there's some range, like magical abilities. This is probably the only part where maybe like slotting 1 or 2 ice protection gems might help you out. Maybe if you just put like an ice frozen protection, amulet in there. Maybe, again, like I said, it doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, but if you're going in there, you're light, you're 5 con, you've got no other sort of elemental protection in there, you might get a little bit of a tap there, so you just got to be careful. But as you can see here, the DPS seems pretty decent. Obviously, you get a little bit of time in between the waves, but essentially, you just got like a bunch of melee mobs. Some of them got warhammers, some of them have got like spears and stuff. You just got to be making sure you're clumping them all together. As a tank here, I just try and step a little bit back just as they come into everyone. Then I'll obviously grab all the aggro. We'll chuck the grav wells in. Sometimes the spawns are a little bit delayed. Again, it's the same sort of wave as the first one, just a couple more this time. You got a couple of mages on the outside that you got to go for, so just bear in mind that. What I would probably say is best here, when you get to the second wave, try and stand roughly where we are now, and then you might get the whole of the melee clump and the range clump, these mages. You might get those together. There's going to be 1 or 2 on the outsides that you can't quite grab. But in general, if you just sort of, as we're facing north here, if you tend to grab them up there, you should be okay. Right, we're going to wait for this final wave. There we go. So on this final wave here, this is where you want to be stood right up there at the top. We basically perfected this after this run. This is like our second little go, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, third wave makes a lot more sense. You basically stand where those mages are in the background. That's where you just open up, and then as they spawn on top of you grab all them in, and yeah, it's a lot easier. Again, these ones count as elite, so they're a little bit harder to kill, but as long as you've got most of the group on them, they should start to go down pretty quickly. In fact, we've even got a fire mage in this group. It shows you that basically you don't need to sort of be like elitist here. You can take in some mages. I still wouldn't take in like bows and muskets and stuff like that, because they just don't really do much damage, but you can do. You don't need to be too elitist here with the group, as long as you're mixing up those weapons. Another thing to mention as well, as I just shown on the camera, in between the phases, there's basically 3 phases here. You've got the ads phase, the first boss phase, and the third boss phase. And that little bridge there, if any members actually die, they can actually run over this bridge and then join you and continue on the fight. Now, we've got Razhan here, the Horde Master, as you can see. First mechanic I want to show you about, if you get these red circles on you, you get a couple of seconds, I think it's about 5 or 6 seconds to run away, and then they will detonate these lava pools where some adds are going to spawn out of them, as you can see there. Now, again, if you've all got Human Ward, you've all got Flame Conditioning, you've all got, you know, or Ruby Gems slotted, you don't need to run away there. If you just want to DPS race this, you can stay. As you can see, 1 or 2 players do here stay, but this will explode and do some AoE damage, and what we found is to close those explosions, they can do like a little chain. You need to be careful. Right, as we also mentioned as well, if you can see those mobs in the background, that's why I've chose this one as a recording. If you do not kill these adds, they will run into those little lava plumes. They will basically bulk up. They become like triple the size. They get some new little abilities, like the fire little laser beams that they're firing out there. They've got a lot more HP. They're basically now elite mobs. This makes it a little bit tougher. Now, all in all, if you have like an insane group, you know, it's like I said, you've got all the correct gear, you'll burn these down really quickly. I'm just trying to show this for maybe some groups who are beginners and haven't really, you know, had a chance to perfect their gear, perfect their builds and stuff like that. This essentially now becomes a DPS race, but the mechanics on the boss are what you can see here. So we've got these flame circles, run those away, let them explode. When the adds are there, try and kill the adds, try and group them into the boss and kill those adds. And basically just keep an eye out for all this fire damage. Him himself kind of does just generic sort of slashing motions attack, so obviously front him up and everybody else can hit him from behind. The tank, you can just sort of, if you want to, that is, you don't even have to, you can just, you know, bring up your shield every now and again. Now we are spawning into the final boss. So essentially, a lot of these mechanics you can skip. It's basically a DPS race. The faster your DPS, a lot of these mechanics you kind of won't really see. This one is a Hadish Azar, and it opens up, it's obviously Keeper of Flame, opens up all these sort of like little swirling fire on several members of the party. That'll do a little bit of fire damage over time. Again, that's why we slot those Ruby Gems, or if you want Flame Condition, you can do. Now, that pulling ability, I need to mention that to you now, that's really important. Towards this later on in the fight, she will zoom towards the end, the edges, sorry, of the map, and when she does this pulling ability, it is very, very important to make sure you are facing, directly facing into that mini-boss. Because then, rather than pulling you and chucking you over the edge, she'll pull you body block, basically, and stop you from, you know, sort of wiping parts of the group. Other mechanics are, as you could see just a couple of seconds ago, there are those mini little mobs running around on the floor, the little imps. Just make sure you manually just run your character over them, like squishing the scorpions in Brimstone. If not, they will create the fire circles on the floor and do even more damage. This totem that just popped up very, very quickly because we DPS that fast, that could spawn on any one of the players at any time. And basically it fully stuns them, it stun locks them. So to get those players out, it could be a healer, it could be a tank, it could be some DPS. You just basically got to burn down that totem quickly with some damage, and then you'll be in there. Other mechanics to look out for, as you can see here, this big swirling motion of fire. She pushes you out a little bit. It's a bit like Incinerate on the fire staff, so you need to look out for that. And then also a bit like Burnout on the fire staff as well. She'll basically launch through. You want to block that or just dodge roll through. And as you can see, yeah, basically it's all just fire damage. So if you're stacking this fire damage, you should be pretty good. One thing to note here, though, on this mechanic, so the pull-in mechanic that we were talking about, there's the Burnout one. The pull-in mechanic, so what this boss will normally do is basically send out a flame impulse outwards, to which you would, you know, be fine, and then the inwards. Yeah. Flame walls, as you can see, coming down here. These, again, you could run in and out. See the way there's like little gaps there to the right, into the center? You could run all the way through that. The main strat is that the healer just spams the heals right here, Sacred Ground, all on the feet of the boss, and you can all just stand there, and you can take the damage, you can take the heals, and it'll be absolutely fine. Like, that'll just go through nice and easy. So, for the rest of this fight, it's essentially just make sure you're not standing in any of the meteor showers or you know, any of these little rain of fires you can see behind us. Just obviously, it's quite obvious, you know. I know it's an Ultimate Guide video, but some of it is kind of like self-obvious. You don't stand in all the flames, as you can see there in the background. And then this is, like I was saying, a DPS race. The slower your DPS is, the more the mechanics will repeat themselves. So here we're getting a second wave because obviously we had a couple of players die and fall off the edge and stuff like that. So the boss repeated the mechanic there of the flame walls. Best thing to do, like we said, stack up in the middle, right at the front of the boss, and you'll be absolutely fine. Hopefully this guy has helped you. As you can see, some of the bind and equip items that we're getting at the end there. You can run this 7 times a week. You know, you don't need anything to get inside the dungeon. You can run it 7 times a week and get all the rewards. After that, you just get standard rewards. You don't get the chests. And then to wrap this guide up, if you found this useful, comment section down below. If you think I missed any mechanics, which I don't think I did, I tried to get a good recording where you got to see all the different mechanics, like what happens when those mini ads don't get killed, if the imps don't get stood on, and the totem. And then you got the push out, sort of like incinerate mechanic. You've got the pull in mechanic. So the biggest thing I want to mention about that, again, when you know that the boss is, the final boss that is about to do this, call it like a suck in mechanic if you like. When the boss is about to do that, just make sure you're standing directly in front of her, and basically you'll just get sucked in and body blocked, and you won't get chucked over the edge. Okay, the further away you are, the more the pull is, so try and be a little bit closer. We have attempted to dodge roll through this a few times. Some players, they seem to say that dodge rolling through that sort of suck-in ability or mechanic, it does work, and some people claim that they tried to dodge roll and they got chucked off the edge anyway. So just bear that in mind. I would just personally just stand as close as you possibly can, and you'll get sucked into the third and final boss, and it should be nice and easy. So if you found this quick guide, you know, ultimate guide if you like, it's not the hardest content in the game. It's definitely playable by absolute randomers. So look out on your server that you'll play on. Look out in the global chats and the recruitment chats for people just saying hatchery. And in my opinion, just join, get some human ward gear, get some human bane weapons, and a little bit of fire resistance in there as well. You can just slot a fire amulet or a couple of ruby gems, for example. That'll be absolutely fine. And yeah, let me know if it helped you out. Comment section down below. Drop a like on the video, sub, all that kind of stuff. Check me out over on Twitch if you like when I'm live. The link's down there in the description. Just click follow and notifications on, and you should see every time I go live. And we'll see you in the next guide video.